Hello guys and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be looking at another abstract artistic sort of experimental game, this one called Trip by Axel Shokk. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to look at this pretty close to when we looked at Proteus because this is a pretty similar mechanic, but I think it approaches it in a very different way. So, on request, here's the options menu. It's got audio and a playlist in it. The audio option doesn't seem to work. I set it down quite a ways several times, didn't really do anything. But anyway, let's get into it. So on the main menu we can choose from so far one world. The README that came with this said that there are 2 major updates planned with extra areas. So that's pretty cool. There is more coming. And we're going to load that up. There are apparently things to find in this. Something like 30 different items that you can come across and add to an inventory, which you have by hitting enter. Oh, and you can save, and there's the options menu again from here. Not sure why you'd really need to save. I mean, you can't really start over or anything. Or you don't really need to start over, I mean. So this game is basically a art gallery in a way. I don't know, it's kind of tough to classify this one. On Reddit, when we posted the Proteus episode, it turned into a big debate about what is a game. And in a way, I feel like Proteus is almost closer to falling in the game category, whereas this is closer to an experience. And I'm not saying that because one is more valid than another. They're both completely valid, and this is really an interesting way to do it. But I feel like the user interactivity of it is sort of lacking. And I love the visuals of it. It's really cool looking, and it reminds me a lot of Fract in this sort of flat-shaded polygonal aesthetic. I mean, not to mention just how abstract and just like trippy and surreal it is. It's always entertaining to look at. So we're going to walk around in this for a minute and take a look at some of the sites. We're also going to be aware that the audio is well tuned to each area, and it actually does some really interesting surround features. So when you're playing this, I recommend playing it with headphones on. Really interesting music, actually. I quite like the music that goes along with it, and I think it really helps set the tone. Quite interesting colors on everything, too. It's just really bright and, like, audacious. Is that even a word? I think it is. It's a very interesting approach for an artist to use like a digital showroom for a gallery. And I mean, I've been to a lot of galleries in my life, but they obviously can't be presented like this. So it seems like a pretty intelligent way to go about pushing your art, or, you know, having your art to be viewed. And pushing is kind of a strong word. But just taking advantage of the digital realm and the fact that there's just infinite possibilities, I think that's really a cool approach. I mean, there's pretty much nothing limiting you here aside from budget and, you know, power of the computers. And as long as you're staying within a reasonable realm of naturalism, I think that there's no issue with that as far as polygon count. I mean, look, there's a lot going on here. Some really strange sounds happening. If you read would a man's... Kind of hard to read these things. Need the right spot to stand in. Disposition. See him game? I don't know. I'm sure I just need to be up higher or something to look at that, which is hopefully something that was planned for. But you know how much I enjoy experimental stuff, and I'm very interested by this. I love the aesthetic of it. I feel like it's just sort of sterile. I mean, I'm not sure what I'm really expecting out of it, but it would be just so much more engaging if some of this stuff reacted to you being around it. I mean, it is just like literally a gallery. You're just walking through a gallery, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with galleries. But I've even been to some galleries where the art reacts to the people around it, and I guess I feel like it's sort of a missed opportunity. And hopefully, and maybe there is a part where that even does happen, and it's probably just a conscious decision for it to be this way, and it's probably part of the bigger picture, you know, of the presentation of the art. It's definitely quite a sprawling landscape. There's a lot to see. And I imagine there are screenshots galore to be had in this if you just walk around with this, like an objective eye. Now this guy here, he seems to be a pyramid head, and he's going to drop this block into this river. I'm happy there are animations, because that would have been even worse, like if there was just nothing moving, and you just are walking around, and there aren't like shaders or any kind of effects. I mean, it's just sort of necessary at this point in time, like, unless you're going for that specifically, to have some sort of an animation or something to look at, or you're just, it's going to get kind of boring. And I know a bunch of people on Reddit who would probably say that this is sort of a boring thing inherently, and I completely don't agree. I think that people who believe that are, I don't know, they're either not opening themselves to as many experiences as could be had, or they just, I don't know, feel some sort of obligation to shut down on different experiences, because what do you have to lose by playing something like this other than time and potentially money from buying it? It's just art. I mean, who's to say what art can and can't be, the same way who's to say what games can and can't be? The major argument was that for a game to be a game, you need to have objectives, and I don't necessarily agree. I mean, it was said that, like, if that's not the case, then a pen is a game, a cardboard box is a game. And I think the bigger picture of that is, yes, actually, that's true if you're simple. If you are a child, if you're a cat, like, they will make games out of things like that, and who's to say that that's wrong? And obviously you're going to draw a contrast between me saying that that's simple and me doing this and saying this is a game, so you're probably thinking I'm simple. I think that there's a lot of art to appreciate, and I think that it can come in any form. Art is obviously more sophisticated than a cardboard box or a pen, so I don't think that there's anything wrong with just being able to appreciate this stuff. I guess that was one of the objects I could pick up. I've got an elephant in my inventory. I do. So, I mean, if you want an objective, there's your objective. Collect 30 icons from this world to show that you've explored it all. You don't have to. But, you know, like Minecraft, you don't have to survive either. You don't have to do anything. The punishment for not surviving is respawn. It's not really a punishment. Well, I guess you could argue it is. But at the same time, I mean, it's just sort of this gray area for just about everything. There's no, like, set in stone way that you have to interpret anything, so why argue about it? If you don't like it, don't buy it, don't play it. If you think it's cool, do. If you can appreciate it, tell someone, because probably someone else will appreciate it too. I mean, I'm definitely drawn to stuff like this, and I think that there's a lot to be done in this realm still. So I think trying to shut down people for having vision is just pointless, and it's pointless and it's kind of sad. What are you trying to do? I mean, are you jealous that you don't have the vision to be able to come up with something of your own? Do you think this is pretentious? Do you think that there isn't a valid statement to be made here? And who's to say what is and isn't valid? I mean, I'm getting on a really big soapbox on this episode, and I guess this is the same thing, like, this is the response to the Proteus video in a way, because this is a similar approach. It's an abstract exploration art experimental game, and it's got a different framing. Like, it's not the same exact approach. There's a different intent behind the reason that this is made. This is more to view something instead of to be part of something. Although the experience of being in this world definitely will make you feel like you're part of something, but it seems a little bit disconnected from the viewer in a way. Whereas Proteus was all about guiding the viewer. And I don't want to, like, not give the dev a fair shake on this. This is definitely still worth seeing, worth experiencing. And I've so far only been in one corner of this world. If you noticed at the beginning, there was a hub, and there was like 5 or 6 different directions we could go in. I went in one of those directions, and I've been sort of wandering in that direction the whole time. So there's a lot to see here, and especially with the promise of more coming. If you're into stuff like this, which I definitely am, I can't see a reason that you wouldn't want to experience this. It's really unique. It's unique, it's beautiful, it's different. And like I said in the other video, it's just really comforting to know that there are games out there that are pushing the boundaries of what people think a game can be. I find that that sort of experimentation is really important. If you want to progress, if you want to grow an industry, you need to try things, and this is definitely trying things that haven't been done. It's an experience. I mean, if you want to say it's a game, great. If you don't, great. I don't think anyone can argue that there's an experience, though. The same way when you go to, like, an aquarium, or, you know, like SeaWorld or something. If you go through that massive tank where you're looking up through the tube at all of the dolphins or whales or whatever it may be, I mean, that's not a game, but it's an experience. This is just a different setting for that. I mean, if you think about it on like a biochemical level, there's literally no difference in what's like firing in your brain when you're activated by some stimulus in the real world versus some stimulus in a simulated world. So if you're going to say that this isn't valid, tell that to your brain. Your brain doesn't know the difference. I mean, this is just so full of energy. It's so kinetic. It's got incredible diversity in colors and themes. I mean, there's a lot of work that went into this. Whether or not you agree with this as a statement, you can't deny that there is something substantial here. So, I mean, maybe the gameplay isn't what you're after here, but that's kind of the point. This isn't about gameplay. I mean, the closest thing to gameplay has been the fact that you can hit spacebar to jump, and this is almost like a platforming sequence here. But, I mean, it's not a challenge. You can't lose. There's no enemies. There's nothing stopping your progress to go in whatever direction you want. And at any moment, you can just look down and say, wow, that's pretty beautiful to look at. But beauty is completely subjective, and not everyone agrees on what beauty is. So I happen to think that this is beautiful. I don't discount that you might not. But I don't see a point in telling the people who think this is beautiful that it isn't, because you just can't reason with that. There's nothing about that that is up for debate. So I don't know if you guys agree with me. I'd really love to have a big discussion about this, because this is kind of a prevailing theme in a lot of what I'm doing as a video producer. I really want to get stuff like this out. This is like the meat of what's interesting to me about video games, is these experiences. I mean, games are one thing. The fact that you can play something, you require dexterity maybe, it's difficult, you struggle, you overcome, and that's a whole psychological metagame as well. But what I'm interested in that is the experience of having gone through it when you're in it. I mean, you can't argue that playing Gradius, there's an experience to be had in that. It's a completely different experience than this. And whether or not you're good at the game, there's an aesthetic, there's a visual presentation, there's an audio presentation, there's an interactivity presentation. All of that is running at the same time, and when you add it all together, that results in an experience, and it's not more or less valid to have one or more of those components there or not there. That's my take on it. I mean, I know you guys probably will think different things about it, and like I said, this is completely fine. All of this is up for interpretation. The only thing that's not up for interpretation is telling people that there's no reason for something to exist. I don't think there's anything practical or useful about that. If someone has this need to get a vision out, that should be celebrated, and that should be something that people should want to be involved in. I mean, after you see it, if it's not something that's for you, that's fine, but I don't see a reason not to at least give it a chance to thrive, because you never know who would be interested in something like that. And I'm not saying everyone has to be up on their own personal soapbox pushing stuff because it's different. But if it resonates to you, and if it's something that speaks to you in a way, tell someone about it. You know, if that's what you want to do, you don't have to force it. But at the same time, you know, everyone benefits from pushing the boundaries of things. Who's to know who could have been inspired by something like this and create something like this that maybe someone who didn't like this would like? So I hope you get what I'm trying to say here. It's not trying to be overly negative, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. The argument and the debate is just as important as the thing itself. So I encourage actively for people to disagree, as long as it's respectful. I don't want to see people arguing with each other in really rude, awful ways, like I've seen so many times on YouTube and Reddit, and just about everywhere there's a forum or a place to talk. There's no reason we can't be reasonable with each other. And art is one of the most divisive things, like, of humanity's culture. I mean, everyone has a different take on what is and isn't art. And all I want to tell you guys is to just be open about it. Just feel it, don't feel it, but don't put anyone down over it. I mean, I feel the ambience here. I feel this theme. I feel the aesthetic. It's really, like, industrial right now. We're looking at a lot of mechanical... I don't know, it's so abstract, I can't really put a lot of it into words, but it triggers feelings, it triggers emotions, it triggers memories of all sorts of things that I've experienced in my life, and I just like that there's ways that I can tap into myself externally that make it easier, you know? Like, it's easier to reflect when something is providing the catalyst for it. And I can't say enough that this is just great that there are things like this. I mean, someone said that I had to be high to appreciate this, and I agree that that could be a different way to look at things, but I'm not high. I'm fine. I'm just looking at a game, I'm looking at an experience, a piece of art, as myself, and I just happen to appreciate this stuff. And I happen to see that there's a lot of work that goes into it, and a lot of vision, a lot of direction. I don't know, I'm probably going in circles at this point, both in the experience and in my dialogue or monologue. So I don't know if I want to keep it going much further, but I hope this has given you a little bit of insight into my thought process as to why I like stuff like this, as to why I think this is great, and how I think that this really needs to just be discussed more. If you're a fan of indie games, if you're a fan of games in general, you have to agree, at least on some level, that the boundaries need to be pushed for things to evolve. You know, if we're just going to keep making Call of Duty games for the rest of our lives, and we will, I don't disagree that we will, but if that's all we want out of the platform, out of the industry, that's just boring. Try something different, try something really expressional, like just emotional, just open to interpretation. Let the user put in what they feel instead of telling them what to feel constantly. And I think if we can get past that point, it'll be really liberating for a lot of people. But I admit, not everyone plays games for the same reasons. You know, I mean, it's not... Everybody plays games because they want what they want out of them, and that's perfectly valid as well. If you want to play shooting games, that's fine, more power to you, but just don't be closed-minded to the fact that some people might want different things than that experience. Alright, well, I think this has been a fairly good look at Trip, and I think I wholeheartedly recommend it as an experience. I told you the pros and cons. I hope it's not too divisive that I've brought so much to this experience, and I hope that some of you can appreciate it on some level, and I hope that you guys can talk about it openly with each other, and I hope that that's what my videos help people with. I really do want to promote dialogue. I want to promote people talking and getting this stuff out. Alright, so I think that'll do it for Trip. As always, head over to facebook.com/IndieImpressions so you can stay up on all of the new videos I post. I do them every day. And you can leave comments over on Facebook, you can leave comments on YouTube. I also have Twitter. I have 2 Twitter handles. I have RockLeeSmile and I have IndieImpression. RockLeeSmile is my personal account. Feel free to follow me. I talk about all kinds of stuff on there. I love to just have dialogue with you guys as much as possible. So if you have any questions, if you have suggestions, other indie games you'd like to see, if you just want to call me a prick for not agreeing with your opinion, you know, whatever. Do what you gotta do. I'm here. In a way, if you feel like calling me a prick over my opinion, it's still, in a sad, small way, part of the dialogue. So who am I to stifle your opinion? So I hope that you guys got something out of this, and I hope that you found it reasonably enjoyable. So I will be back tomorrow with another one, and I hope to find lots more interesting experiences out there, and I hope you guys can help me with that. Alright, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.